Okay. All right. So I've been thinking a lot. This weekend I saw. Uh, I couldn't believe actually how not this weekend, Monday, how many people in the evening I saw in the park, and it's just kind of one of those things that blows you away a little bit around how we can go from like this little tiny insular world to opening up. And of course, it made me a little concerned to see the big groups of people and how comfortable or uncomfortable people are with kind of expanding their horizons a little bit. But it made me think about how much we've all been in this incubation stage where we've been really settled into a place of deep introspection. Whether you know it or not, we've all kind of been in an incubation period. And I always wonder about incubation periods because they arrive, new beginnings arrive, big change can arrive out of them. And I think we don't know what those changes are yet globally. But I think if you shrink it down just a little bit to just what is happening in your own, for yourself, how has this time of, and maybe it hasn't been slow for you, maybe you've been busy, but certainly you have been with less people over the last few months. And what's growing inside of you? What kind of incubation period has that been for you? Is there a creativity that's arriving within you, or a new beginning of some kind? Is there something that's shifting that maybe you didn't even have your mind set to? Maybe it's not something that you put intention toward, but it's just arriving. So I think slowing down is the only way for us to access these parts of ourselves that are where gradual beginnings arrive. And most beginnings are not like, just a bursting forth. Usually things that we are changing or growing within us come born over time. And so I just want you to think about that in your practice today. Like what have you been growing inside of you? What have you been incubating? And has the season, this growth season that we're in of spring, how is that impacting what you're able to bring forth? So this is a poem, not a poem, but a writing. John O'Donohue, he's like one of my favorites. So I've read from this book before. I've read this poem to you guys before, not online, but in person in yoga classes. So this is called For a New Beginning. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondering whether you always live like this. Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. All right, so close your eyes and kind of let that permeate and settle into you a bit. Whatever is emerging within you, whatever creative source that is in your deep self that this time can give opening to. Let's have the courage in our mind, body, and spirit to allow that. So close your eyes, settle into the body, rest what you can. So the ways you express all the tension that forms around your face, your eyes, your jaw, your tongue. See if you can let there be ease. And drop down into the deeper parts of your body. Find your breath. See where your breath can take you. Can you travel low in the belly? Feeling the diaphragm become a little bit more free. Feeling a sense of spaciousness through your whole being. So even drop down into the pelvis, the pelvic floor, the legs, your sense of stability and roots. Can you allow yourself to open into a sense of spaciousness through your whole torso? Let your breath be just like the cool wind that's blowing through your whole body. Try to decrease the restriction around your breath. Whatever that is, whether your rib cage gets tight or your breathing comes high in your chest or your diaphragm has a little tension. See if you can open the gateways of your throat, all through your lungs, letting there be freedom and space. And if there is something that you've been kind of nurturing, a seed, maybe you've already planted and have some little seedlings growing in your garden. What is that for you? How can you practice support what you're developing within inside of yourself? Is there a place for your chest to be expansive and open? How does your shoulder blades feel? Can you settle them in a supportive place? Are your eyes soft? Let's place your hands together and set an intention to grow whatever it is that you're developing within you. Let's go ahead and relax. And release the hands down. Let's come onto your back. So lie down. Feel a sense of ease as you come onto the floor. And let's stretch our arms overhead. So even just in the morning, that feeling of the first stretch you do in the morning when you wake up. So just enjoy that kind of feeling in your body. Opening up the side rims, feeling the length from your hands to your heel on one side and then your hand to your heel on the other side. Maybe feel your hips go offline from each other. So stretch one heel longer, then stretch the other heel longer. Feeling how good it feels to stretch and open the back. There's a little bit of a back bend living here, so enjoy that. And then relax your arms down at your side. And notice the difference when your arms come down. What changed in your breath, in the sense of your energy field, your mind. Then bring the knees into the chest and rock a little bit. Feel that nurturing of kind of tucking in on yourself, the soothing nature of that. Feel free to circle the knees a few times, going one direction, and circling the knees a few times, going the other direction. And so open yourself up like a starfish, so navel stretching out to the edges of your body. Feel that energy touch all the way to your fingers, your toes, your crown, your tail. And then exhale and tuck your chin up, hug your knees in. A couple of times, open things up. Spread yourself out. Exhale, close things up. One more time. Finding that sense of space and freedom. And then exhale and relieve your knee, or release your knees into your chest. Put your head back down onto the floor. Put your feet on the ground or stretch your legs straight, whichever feels comfortable for your body. We're just going to very simply notice what it feels like to have the thoracic spine open a little bit. So lift the arms up over your head. And as you bring your arms overhead, if this is comfortable, if your shoulder allows, notice what the back of your body feels like. Notice the shape of your spine, how it's shifted and changed. And then bring your arms back down toward the floor and notice what's shifted and changed here. So just a couple times. something that's very simple as lifting your arms overhead. Notice the impact through your lungs, through your chest, through your upper back, and down again. And then this time when we stretch our arms overhead, one more time, find a real big invigoration in your stretch. Maybe hook your fingers, lengthen your side bodies as much as you can, and then straighten out your legs. You're going to turn your body into the letter C. So walk the feet over to the left, and maybe scoot your shoulders and your arms over to the left as well. And notice the opening through your hip now. See if you can feel that full side body awakening. And then come back to center and go the other way. Walk your feet. And of course, if you have a shoulder that's not liking this, take one arm down. You can do this one arm without having two arms up. Find that sense of just arcing the body over. Feel what it feels like in your hip, in your side waist, in your ribs. Take a deep breath. And then exhale and relax and come back to a neutral spine. Feet on the floor. Bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit. Just let that release from your back. And then let's open our pelvis and our hips a little bit. Knees coming out to the sides. Knees coming back in. And feel free to follow the swing of your hip joint. There's no rule about how the trajectory of bringing your knee out to the side needs to be. Just follow the natural pattern. And then find a place that feels comfortable to stay with your knees apart. Open up the inner thighs a little bit. Feel the hips in their joint, and the femur bones in the hip joints kind of having a different range than what your normal action would be, just kind of sitting in a chair or standing up. And then swing them back in again. Put your feet on the floor, arms out to the sides, feet are wide, and let's windshield wiper our knees left to right. So just opening up the outer hips now a little bit, maybe feeling just a little stretch through the IT band a bit, maybe not, just see what your body feels. Open up through the side waist, through the low back, breathing as you go. All right, and then eventually turn that to come rolling over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and let's start moving our way into some cat-cows. Arching the back, rounding the spine. So take your time. If you have some spots in your back that are a little tender, a little needing of some TLC, let's just enjoy some very supple, soft, subtle openings. So don't feel like you have to do big things. They can be small things. And then circle around, do any kind of movement that feels right to you. Maybe you want to sway from side to side. Maybe you want to do some pelvic circles. Maybe you want to move your neck or your shoulders around. So just find what you're finding, what feels good in your body here. And then stretch up into dog pose. Lengthen through your sides. Root into the hands well. Feel that sense, just like when we were on our backs with our arms overhead, that little back bend that lives in the thoracic spine. Can you find it here without collapsing toward the floor? So try not to sink your chest down toward the ground or your armpits toward the ground. Instead, lift them up toward the pelvis. Find that length in the spine at the same time as the thoracic spine opens in this very unique way with your arms overhead. Open up your feet. Feel free to pedal your knees, bending one, bending the other, swaying your hips a little bit, finding what's here. Deep breath in, deep breath away. Relax your eyes, melt through your face, kind of scan your body and allow things to wake, but also allow things to soften. And then let's walk our feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Fold in half. Feel free to wag your tail, move your shoulders around, slide, glide your shoulder blades, move your head, anything that feels good. And inhale for a halfway lift. Hold the tops of your thighs, bend your knees a bit. Exhale and melt back down. Let's rise all the way up. Lift your arms to the sky, reaching upward, leaning back a little bit. Find that little thoracic back bend that lives here. Cactus, open your arms or bring your arms out if that doesn't feel good for your shoulders.
And then find a little cat-cow that lives here standing up. So tuck your chin, forearms to touch. Inhale, open the chest. Exhale, round in. Reach your arms up to the sky. Grab onto the left wrist with the right hand. Find the extension reaching up and over. Remember to not let this just be at the shoulder joint, but find the full length of your side as you open and expand. Inner spiral your thighs. And then rise back up. Change sides. Reaching over to the side. Feel the extension. Try not to tug at the shoulder, but feel the full side of your body open. Deep breaths. Root into the feet. Okay, come back up one more time. Maybe a big arched opening. Maybe your shoulders going like that. Round forward. Bend your knees and melt. Let your back relax. Slide ride your shoulders a little bit. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Step back with your left foot. Right foot is forward. Come into a lunge on this side. So blocks are awesome. If you have blocks you want to put your hands up on, feel the extension in the back leg. We're going to, open our hips a little bit today. Open our chest up a little bit today. So just notice already the extension, the hip flexor extension in this back leg. Let's go ahead and put our knee down and find just even more of that. Your back toes can be on the floor, or you can feel them curl under, whichever is best for you. Rise up, keep your hands on your hips for a moment, and notice, especially if you're very flexible, it's very easy to fall in this pose. Try not to fall. Hug your front heel and the back knee toward each other to give you that sense of impetus to lift up. And then find the arms and lift them to the sky. Remember, you can always take a different choice. If your shoulders do not like any positions, if your hips don't like positions, your knees, make different choices. If this is too deep a flexion in your hip, lift your back knee up so you can come into less flexion with this knee instead of going so deep. So you find whatever your body's boundaries are, find them. Okay, breathe deeply. Find that openness through your chest. And then release the hands down onto the ground. Lift your back foot up and let's move here. So exhale to square your hips, or inhale, however you like to breathe. Remember, you have a head attached to your spine. So the movement of your head can make a difference in the impact, even all the way down to your sacrum. So when you tuck your chin, when your legs are straight and your hips are square and you tuck your chin, what do you feel? Can you feel that running down the leg? Can you feel your sciatic nerve glide, opening? Breathing. And then walk your back foot forward, bend your knees, inhale for a halfway lift, exhale and melt back down. One more time, bend your knees, rise up, reach and open. If you want to cactus your arms, you can. If you don't have to. Fold in half again. This time our left foot is forward, our right foot is back. Keep the knee off the ground to begin. Just feel that extension moving through the back leg. Feel the femur bone lift to the sky, widen your sit bones, hug toward the midline. So see if you can get that sense that even though you can't have an internal rotation of the femur bones, move in that direction where you have the inner spiral, the feeling of energy moving internally so your sit bones can widen. And then let's go ahead and place your back knee onto the floor. Curl your toes under or lay them flat. Feel that sense of support as you come up, so try not to fall. If your hip flexion doesn't work so well in this hip, come off your knee so you can come into less flexion in this hip joint. So you find maybe your arms want to come up, maybe your hands want to stay down. Just find what feels good. Hugging toward the midline. Feel the sense of spaciousness through your spine. Open yourself up. Deep breaths. And then release your hands down onto the ground. Tuck your chin toward your chest a little bit. Find your breath. And then lift your back knee up and let's start moving. Bending the knee, straightening the knee, and then walk your back foot forward. Fold in half. Find your breath. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Step back to a plank. So 2 hands on the floor. If your hands, wrists don't like this, you can always come into a forearm plank. There's no reason why you have to have me on your hands. Find that sense of stability through the center body. Breathe deeply, look down so that your neck stays long. The shoulders move down away from the ears. There's lots of inner stability. Find your midline from your sternum to your heels. And then when you're ready, go ahead and place your knees down onto the ground. Slowly lower yourself to the floor. Come up to Cobra Pose. Open the chest. Exhale and come back down. Find one more. Feel the back bend that lives here. Where are you supporting it? Relax. So just a little review to remember how much your core is important for your back bends. Put your head on your forehand. Put your forehead on your hands and feel yourself relax a little bit. Stabilize through the center body. Engage your transverse abdominis, that wrapping around your corset muscle around you. Take a deep breath. Lift the right leg up in the air. Find your breath here. You can keep your head down. Stabilize through the center of your body. And then release it back down. Change sides, lifting the other leg. Have resistance. So there's stability in resistance. There's stability in, making sure that you're stable as you move instead of, just letting your leg fly up with no sense of integrity involved in that. And then relax. Wobble your hips. Free that up. Notice if your low back did not like that on any level. Okay. Now we're going to add some arms. So if your shoulders bother you, arms back by your sides. If your shoulders are happy, arms up over your head. Take a deep breath. We're going to lift the right leg and the left arm. Find that cross line in the body. Stabilize through your transverse abdominis. Feel the center line of you. Breathe deeply. And then release and relax. Change sides. Other arm, other leg. So try not to fall. It's very easy. If you let go of your core support, you will overtax the low back. And then release and relax. Come back up onto all fours. Don't go back into child's pose. Do some circles through your pelvis. Find some cat-cow, whatever feels good. Sway from side to side. Just find some freedom in your back. After the back bending, let things neutralize. Deep breaths here. And then we're going to come all the way to dog pose. Lengthen and open through your sides. Root into the index finger mounds. Lift the right leg straight up in the air. Lift the left hip up and back. Find your square hips first before we open things up. And then as you're ready, stack your right hip over your left. Try not to fall through your left shoulder. Lift underneath your armpit. You can bend your knee or straighten it. Feel the extension. What are you sensing here? Breathe into what you're sensing. Let your breath accentuate your feeling. And then square the hips again. Take a deep breath, knee to nose. Okay, so don't come into a lunge. Just bring your knee into your chest. Inhale, bring it back. Now we get to bring our knee to the outside of our elbow. Inhale, bring it back. Cross it over, so right knee to left elbow. Feel your core. Inhale, bring that back. Now we get to place our foot forward, bring it into a lunge. Place your back knee down on the ground if you need to. Take your hand on the inside edge. If this deep of flexion in your hip is not a good thing for you, have your blocks, have some height, so you don't have to go down so low. Okay, so you be you, you do you, wherever your hips are allowing you to go today. Find it. Your back knee can be on the floor. Your back knee can be up off the floor. Inner spiral your thighs. Feel the sit bones widen. Stretch your heart and widen your collarbones too. Find your breath. And then we're going to bring our back foot to the outside edge of your hand. So once again, with squats, your squat might be here where you're pretty high. Your squat might be much lower. So you find where your knee and hip flexion is best for you today. and find your way into a squat. So don't go low. So even if you can, keep your hips in line with the knees at the lowest. Elbows inside your knees, shoulders away from the ears. Find your breath. Root into the feet well. Feel the work. Enjoy the work. Let things wake up and get some blood flow. Deep breath in. Deep breath away. Inhale, rise all the way up. Come to a starfish in your body. Exhale one more time down to a squat. We're going to do that twice more. Inhale, push up. Exhale, come down. This next time when we come up, try to feel like you're super heavy, that you weigh a whole ton more than you actually do. So you have to like push so much weight up off the ground so your legs are really awakening. Lift up, exhale, fold in half. Find your breath. Step back to dog pose. Deep inhales, deep exhales, extending through the spine. Find what you find. When you're ready, lift the left leg up in the air. The hips are square. Find your breath. Lift the right hip up and back. Or I'm sorry, left hip up and back. Breathe deeply. Find your way. And then we're going to stack open. All right, so bend your knee. With your right armpit, try not to sink and settle into the floor. Lift it up. Find the left leg reaching and extending open. Breathe here. Sorry if I messed up your leg. You should have your left leg up in the air. And then square things up. Square hips, stretch that foot back. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, knee to outside of the left elbow. Lift it high. Inhale, bring it back. Cross it over. And don't worry if you can't do this. If you're kind of not as, can't get your knee really high, that's so fine. Just be where you are. And let's swing our foot forward, come into a lunge. Find your heart, grow your heart. Feel your breath here. We're going to take the hand on the inside edge of your foot. Your back knee can come down onto the floor. Your hands can come up on blocks. So you find whatever level of flexion your left hip will allow today. Inner spiral, sit bones wide, chest is broad. Find your breath. Shoulders are away from the ears. Spread out the collarbones. Deepen your breathing. All right, now from here, instead of bringing the foot forward to come into a lunge, turn to the long edge of your mat, and your feet are wide on the mat. Relax your head down, find your breath, and it doesn't matter if you go all the way close to the floor or if you need hands underneath or blocks underneath your hands, you do you. The heads of the femur bones are drawing way back. The knees are soft. Find your way toward the floor. And then we're going to come on up. Find your breath. We're staying wide here. All right, so just waking up the hips a little bit more. Let's go from one side to the other. Okay, so finding, and you can be low. If your squat earlier, if you had a pretty low squat, feel free to go low in this and kind of go back and forth between your sides low. If your squat was pretty high, then you're going here. You're just kind of going back and forth between the hips wherever, or between the two sides wherever your body goes, okay? Arms can do whatever you want the arms to do. They can open themselves up and find some space. They can find some fluidity, whatever feels nice for you. And then come to a really wide, deep, deep squat, wherever your body goes. And then come up to stand. So hopefully your hips are open now for some standing poses. Turn your feet to the right. Find your breath. And let's move a little bit. So feel free to come opening and closing. You don't have to go very deep. So remember, standing poses can live right here. If you have a knee or anything or a hip that is not so open, be high. You don't have to be real low in this pose. Matter of fact, sometimes when we go really low, we lose our stability. So find your sweet spot, wherever that might be for you. Arms out if they're comfortable. Hands can be anywhere you want them to be. Find your breath, gaze out over your hand. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Feel the openness in your hips. Engage through your hips. Remember spinning your foot, so that right foot, your heel goes left, your toes go right. Open up the muscles in your hip. Find your breath, come into a reverse warrior side bend. Open the ribs. And then come up to straighten your leg. Find your breath. As we find triangle pose, keep your hands on your hips for a moment and let this femoral bone go sinking deep into the hip joint. Be really mindful to not hyperextend the knee. Open your chest. If you want to block, you can have a block for triangle pose. Stay rooted through your back foot. Find the breath. From here, we're going to stretch our arm overhead, and only if your shoulder likes this. See what it feels like to open up the side rim of the body with your body straight versus, we're going to go there next. But find this. And then with the same angle of your arms, go ahead and bend your knee. Maybe your hand's still on a block. Maybe you want to put your elbow up on your knee. Whichever feels good to you. Be really mindful of this leg. Your knee can easily hyperextend. So a little micro bend in there. Have the head of the thigh bone move back instead of the knee pushing back. Deep breaths. Enjoy the work in the hips. Enjoy, external rotation is not an action that we do very often through the day in our hips. So enjoy it. Come on up. Turn your feet to the long edge. Before we do the same second side, find the same pose as we did before. Soft bend in the knees, just a teeny bit. Thigh bones are moving back. Come forward toward the floor. Hands can be on the ground or on blocks. Whatever works for you. Deep breaths. You can always take your arms out, like dog pose too. Enjoy being in the body. All right, come on up. Let's turn our feet the other way. So, these standing poses that we do often, like truly, when we're here in our day, moving around, we very rarely rotate our hip in this way where we're both abducting the leg and rotating the leg. So enjoy. It's a really good action to keep mobile in your hip joints. And if you tend to sit in a chair, all day long with your legs crossed, this is just exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do. So enjoy opening up the windows a little bit in your hips. Extend through the spine. Feel free to move a little bit if you want to move a little bit. Remember that when you get there, your there can be here. It does not have to be real deep. So find what's stable for your hip and your knee. And then go ahead and bring your hands out to the side. Finding the breath throughout the shoulders. Notice if this side is more comfortable, if you're like at home more in the body or less. What kind of shadows of injuries live on this side to inform where you're able to move and not. Allow the pelvis to find its sweet spot so you're not, creating a chicken bone effect. You don't want to rip your hip joints, okay? So let them be congruent. Find your breathing. Slide that arm up. Reach and open, extend through the side body, breathe. And then when you're ready, straighten your leg, come into triangle pose on this side. So let the femur bones sink deep into the joint. Feel what it feels like to stay stable and rooted. Soft knee, hand can be on block. Your other hand can come in the air. It can also just rest on your hip. Your hand can rest on your hip or your arm can lay down on your side. Find what works for your body. Deep breaths. If your shoulders allow, take your arm, and you can swing it in front of you too. That's usually a better action for the shoulder joint. Swing it overhead if you're able to. Notice the side body. Reach into the back heel. Find that extension. Open things up. Keep your breath moving. And then go ahead and bend your knee. Maybe your hand wants to stay on the block. Maybe your elbow wants to come onto the knee. Maybe your hand wants to stay here. Maybe your arm wants to come over. So this action of going out and up is very different in the shoulder than swinging it forward. So find a trajectory of movement that is most comfortable for you. Enjoy the work of the hips. Pull back from your outer knees to your outer hips. Feel the movement of that front foot give you some energy in the hip joint. So as your left toes go left and your left heel goes right, what lights up underneath your strong glutes? Find those smaller muscles. How's your breath? All right, and then go ahead and come back up. Turn your feet to the long edge of the mat one last time before we move on to something different. Find the sense of balance between the two sides of the pelvis. We're going to find one more deep squat so your toes can turn out. You're very wide, so I can't bring my hands together and touch my elbows. So elbows just on my knees, and use your elbows to kind of help your knees open outward. Drop the sit bones so they're in line with the hips and not lower. And then come on up. Swing back to the front of your mat and find dog pose. So now you get to do something different with your hips. Inner spiral. Femur bones rolling in, the sit bones widen out. Find your breath. Feel free to pedal your feet. Inhale, come forward into a plank. Nice and stable through the center line of the body. What's here? Move the shoulders away from the ears. Can you zip up your zipper from your sternum to your heels or your heels to your sternum? Do your inhales give you a little spaciousness and your exhales give you some condensement and support? Put your knees down. If you need to, slowly lower yourself to the floor. Let's add a little bit of upper body back bending into what we're doing with our hips. Take your legs wide apart so feet are on the outside edges of your mat. Curl your toes under so your thighs follow that. And then rest. So you get to choose. You know, we're working with some external rotation of the hips, so feel free to lift up your legs again and turn your toes out. So you're kind of resting on the inner kneecap. If that doesn't feel good for your body, then go back to kneecaps face down. So either way for this is great. Arms can be out to the side, up overhead, or down. Take a deep breath and lift everything up. Find your mid-back. Feel the muscles along your back. Stabilize with your core. Remember, your front body protects your back body. Deep breaths here. And then relax and settle back down. Bring your knees back to normal and rock left and right. Finding your breathing. Relax your hips for a moment. Okay, let's go ahead and come back up onto all fours. Assess your spine. Notice if you need any little, movements to help you neutralize. And come back onto your feet for a moment. We're going to go in a little bit different direction now. So just feel Virasana. Let your thighs rest for a moment. Feel your spine grow. And if you can't come back onto your heels, that's fine. Sit down with your legs straight out in front of you. Okay. Full breaths in, full breaths away. When you spend time really just diving in to yourself, being present with yourself, what are you nurturing? What are you not noticing that you're nurturing? Is there something that's been growing within you that you are unaware of? Strength. How has this whole time of isolation strengthened you? Okay, let's go ahead and come onto all fours. Bring your right foot forward. We're coming into a lunge again, but this time we're keeping the back knee. We're going to move it in just a moment, but first just start with it back on the floor and just allow yourself to kind of go back and forth. So give yourself some ease in opening through the hip flexors here. All right, and then we're going to find our way. That you might need a strap for this. So take your left hand onto the floor. Actually, before we do the full quad stretch, let's lift your back knee up off the floor. Just find a lunge. We're going to twist here. You can have your hand on your thigh. You can have your hand in the air. You can even take your elbow to the outside of the knee and come into a deeper twist. So whatever is feeling really good in your body, make sure your back femur bone lifts toward the sky. Inner spiral still. The spine is growing no matter what you're doing, twisting wise. Twist on the exhales. And then release and relax. Put your knee down onto the ground. Let's just do a little half Hanumasana. And then come forward again. Now we get to stretch your thighs. So you can reach back if you want and grab onto your foot. And if you can't reach your foot, this is where straps can come in handy to wrap around your ankle to find your way here. Make sure that you are above your kneecap. So you don't want to rest right on the top of your kneecap. You want to be on the bottom edge of your quadriceps. Finding your breath. Shoulders away from the ears, open the chest. Relax and come out of there. Go ahead and stretch back to dog pose. Feel the extension through your spine, breathing deeply. Inhale and exhale. Let's bring our other foot forward. Okay, so you can have blocks if you need to nearby, a strap if you need to nearby. Now our left foot is forward, our right knee is down. Feel the extension through the spine. Breathe here. And then as you're ready, let's lift the quad off the floor, the knee off the floor, and find our twist. So maybe the hand stays onto the ground and the arm lifts. Maybe the hand stays on the thigh. Maybe you go deeper and put your elbow on your knee. So you find you, shoulders away from the ears, collarbones are broad and wide. Feel the midline. Hug into it with your legs. Stretch your back femur bone up toward the sky. All right, and then relax. Put your knee onto the ground. Half Hanumasana a couple times, just relaxing. Let your hips move. Now, once again, this is a giant pose, what we're about to do. So you might have trouble with either deep flexion in this hip. You might have trouble with the deep extension in the back hip. So if you need to stand up, or if you maybe just can't handle your knee on the floor. So you can always stand up. You can always grab onto something for support for your balance, and just stretch your quad here. So if you're doing this, tailbone descends, pubic bone lifts, so that you're stretching the knee toward the floor and not just arching the back. If you're on the ground and you're grabbing your foot or wrapping a strap around your ankle, feel the collarbones open. It's easy to fall, especially if you're very flexible. Don't fall. Hug back in, feel the stability. Breathe. Stay rooted through your front big toe mound. Hug that knee in. Don't let your knee splay out to the side. All right, and then relax and come down onto all fours. Find some movement, some swirls, anything that feels really nice for you. And then sit back onto your heels for a moment. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Open the chest. Feel the collarbones broaden. And if you're comfortable, come forward and lift the arms away. If you're not, and you can do the standing too. So if your asana is not good for your knees, you can just be standing up, opening your chest like this. All right, and then let's relax. Come onto your back. All right, have your heels close in. Now you get to decide. I want you to be really mindful of the internal rotation of your shoulders. Let's try to avoid that. Open up your shoulders. So when we come into bridge pose, see what it feels like to have your arms next to you instead of interlaced. If you interlace your arms and your shoulders roll forward, then that's not a good position for you. I like to do this sometimes with my palms facing up toward the sky, pressing my hands into the floor. Just find the openness. Relax across your neck. Be gentle. Deep, full inhales. Deep exhales. All right, and then relax. Okay, so I've been hesitant to do this online because I can't see any of you, and this is a giant pose. So I don't want you to do this unless you've done this a lot before. if you have a lot of experience with Urdhva Dhanurasana, so I'm going to give you two choices. The first one is a full back bend. If you're going to do this, make sure when you come onto the floor with your hands that your elbows don't splay out to the side, and allow yourself to draw your elbows toward each other and then down toward the floor. So you're really stabilizing the shoulder joints. And then when you're ready, come up onto the top of your head and repeat it. Elbows in toward each other, in toward the shoulders. And then go ahead and lift yourself up. Okay, now don't do that unless you absolutely know how to do that. So go ahead and do that if you're doing that. And if you're not, come onto your belly. Or maybe you've done that, but you just don't want to do that now because it's too big. Now we're going to grab our heels or a strap, okay, whatever works for your body. Stretch your knees away from your pelvis. Feel your tailbone stretch toward your knees. Take a breath, inhale, and lift up into bow pose. Back of the neck stays long. Deep breaths here. Find your way. Is the front of your body protecting the back of your body? Back bends feel good until they don't feel good. So make sure you're staying in a feel-good place. And then release. Do not go back to child's pose for either position. Instead, come up onto all fours, no matter what pose you just did, and do some circles. Sway your hips from side to side. Do some circles through your pelvis, whatever feels good in your body. Resist the urge to go back just yet. We will, but just not yet. Find your way to dog pose when you're ready. Deep breaths in, deep breaths away. Everybody take your feet really wide to the edges of the mat. Turn your toes in and your heels out a little bit. Extend through your spine, heart lifting up toward the pelvis. Keep finding your breath. All right, and then go ahead and come down onto all fours. So you get to choose pigeon pose, reverse pigeon pose, or a very wide Baddha Konasana. So pigeon pose, you have one leg forward, one leg back. Okay, you can support underneath your hip with a blanket underneath here if you can't make it to the floor, however you want. Reverse pigeon pose, you're on your back with your foot on top of your knee and bringing forward. Or a third choice, sorry to give you too many choices, but third choice is to sit up on the edge of something. Soles of the feet are far away from you. So we're not close in for Baddha Konasana, we're far away. So there's a big triangle shape or diamond shape in between your legs. And you can come pressing your knees with your forearms or hands. So you choose whichever variation of those that you're going to do. Let your hips begin to open. Okay, we did a lot of hip work earlier to prepare, so allow yourself to be here now. Deep breaths in. Remember, our goals in our practice is to slowly, gradually awaken the body and mind. We're not pushing. So this sense, remember the words of John O'Donohue, a lot of new beginnings are born over a long period of time. In yoga, that's called a sankalpa, an intention that you're feeding and nourishing slowly over time. A new beginning that is so gradual, like a flower that takes so long to open instead of just bursting forth. So let that be how your poses feel, that we're not pushing ourselves beyond the opening that we are ready for. See what it feels like to just notice right here, right here. Where am I opening? Where am I breathing? Right here. If you're doing a two-sided pose, change your sides. Come out and switch. And perhaps something needs to change. Maybe, you have a tighter or looser hip on one side. Most of us do. So if you need more support underneath pigeon pose, or if you need a reverse pigeon pose instead of pigeon pose, whatever you're doing. If you've chosen a bilateral hip opener like this one that I'm sitting in, then you just stay put. When you're doing these postures, no matter what they are, find your breath. So notice what the inhale is giving you. Exhales are often a place not only to find stability, but it's also a place to just
touch your boundary. Just touch your boundary. Am I as open as I can be right in this moment? And I'm respecting the boundary of where I'm not ready to be open. And only this moment can show you what that is. And if you're not paying attention, it's very easy to go pushing past things or to just never touch your boundary. Be like, nope, this is where I live, in this tinier box. So expand your box to wherever it can be without spilling out the sides. Let your breath help you. As you are ready to come out of that pose, now that our hips are a little bit more open, we're ready to open the back. So come onto your back, grab a strap or a scarf or whatever you have. Bring your knee toward your right knee toward your chest. Wrap the strap around your foot and lift it up in the air. Opening up the glutes and the hamstrings is important after back bending. Just notice what you're feeling. Is your spine as long and spacious as you can make it be? Are your shoulders relaxed away from the ears? Stretch up through your foot, root down through your hip. Finding your breathing body. Okay. Cross, don't open out to the side, no more external rotation. Grab onto the strap with the left hand and cross your right leg past the midline over to the left. Your right hand can kind of press into the hip crease a little bit, opening up the IT band. With your left leg on the floor, if you want, internally rotate that thigh. Feel your kneecap pointing straight up, so there's a little resistance instead of letting it fall out to the side. This can open the sacroiliac joints up a little bit if you tended to smush them in back bends. Okay, so you don't have to do this, but it's just a little subtle way to feel both sides of the SI joints broaden. The left leg on the floor internally rotates, toes pointing straight up, kneecap pointing straight up. And then lift that leg straight back up again, 2 feet in the strap for a moment. Now we're getting a little closer to flexion in the back. So just notice the spaciousness in your spine still. And then take the right foot out. I always forget to say this on the first side. You can always put your foot on the floor instead of your leg long on the floor. So there's ways to back away from the intensity of something like this. Stretch your leg up, root your hip down. So feel the femur bone drop into the hip socket and pull the head of the femur bone away from the top of the joint. Just see what it feels like to create a little space in there. Breathe. Shoulders are relaxed. Spine is long. We're going to take the strap into the right hand. Left leg crosses over the midline. Left hand, the heel of the hand can press into that hip joint. So now you got a little pocket in there. Move the head of the femur bone away from the shoulder. This is very soothing to the sacrum usually. It's very settling. Just see what it feels like. Turn your right foot up toward the sky and right kneecap up toward the sky. A little internal rotation of that thigh on the ground. Breathing here. And then lift that leg back up. Take your feet. We're going to do a simple twist before we, I know you have the urge to bring your knees to your chest. And good job resisting the urge to bring your knees to your chest. Lift your hips and scooch them to the right. Bring your knees up and drop them left. Find your breathing. Open your body up. Breathe deeply. Let the breath carry through the pose. Enjoy the feeling along your spine of twisting.
then lift your knees back up. Let's scooch our hips the other way. Knees come high toward the chest and down toward the floor. Open your breath. And then now you can lift up. So now you can bring your knees to your chest. Maybe you don't even have the deep urge to do so any longer. Sometimes, well, you can bring your knees to your chest. You can come into happy baby pose. You can rock a little bit. Sometimes the movement is what feels best to my back after back bends. It's not necessarily deep compression in a forward fold. Sometimes I just like to do those beginning circles we always do with our knees. That can be very soothing to the back as well. So you find you. So experiment. Maybe you want to go so far as to come into, like a modified halasana. Oh, look, I have a couch right here. So there's lots of ways you can find whatever's going to work for your body. And then take your time. Okay, but when you are done, time for Shavasana. Now, with a back bending practice, it's really nice to have support underneath your knees. Sometimes it's difficult to lie flat when you've done some deep work like we've done. So either put some support underneath your knees with blankets, or this would be a good day to stick your legs up onto a couch. So whatever is going to help you find ease in your back and in your pelvis. So especially if your legs are up, feel free to take your knees wide or apart. You can even take your feet together like a very high supported Supta Baddha Konasana. Arms can be out, so let yourself be as relaxed, open, and free. Relaxed is the key here. Let your back soften. Come into your breathing. Breathe all the way to the pelvic floor. Find the sense of surrender through your body. Melt what you can. Feel that sense of relaxation through your eyes, your jaw. Melt the tongue, melt the upper and lower palates, even your teeth. Soften the cheeks. Melt through your jaw and the base of your skull. Find some ease. Let your spine spread out like water spreading out over a floor. Let your exhales melt you.
Begin to deepen your breathing again. Deep belly breaths. Let your belly be free. Deep belly breaths. Start to move your body any way that feels good in your body. Find your way onto your side. And use your arms to lift yourself upright. Come to a seated posture when you're ready. Bring your hands together at your heart. Feel the energy of back bends in your body, a little bit open chest, a little bit of trust. Offer that energy outward, share your practice. And if it's all right with you, I'd like everybody to send a little energy to Tom. Those of you who know Tom, he's having his knee replaced tomorrow. So I'll just send some good healing energy. Namaste. Okay, thanks everyone. Blessings on the day. Hope you have a wonderful day.